Hey everyone, Walt here. Welcome back to the Brumby build. So since the last episode when I did some damage removing that battery tray,
Oh yeah, that was a mistake.
I've been focused on working in this area of the engine bay and just sort of fixing that damage, fixing past mistakes, shall we say. So without any further ado, let's jump on in there and I'll show you what I've been up to. Okay, the first step is to clean up the area. Presumably a battery had leaked at some point in the past, dissolving some of the paint and causing surface rust to form. To get rid of the rust, as well as any remaining paint, I used a stripping disc on the flat surfaces and a wire wheel to get into the corners. The end result was pretty good, although there was some minor surface pitting from the rust that I wasn't able to get out. The back of the metal also needs to be cleaned, so the guard liner had to come out to get access in there. Alright, so I've given the areas that I need to weld just a little bit of a spruce up there, taking the paint off them so that it can't get pulled through and contaminate the weld when I'm welding it from the top. So you can see there's just a little bit there, one of the spot welds I've drilled a little bit deep, and that's the one where I drove the chisel through. So that's all been pressed up. Now I better bring the car down off the hoist and I can hammer it down from the top and try and get that seam as tight as possible before I try to weld it. Alright, so with it cleaned up, I still need to try and close up the gap where I put the chisel through the guard here. Now I'm no panel beater by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, if you've been watching this series for any length of time, you'll realise I'm not really a professional at anything. I'm just a dude that likes to give things a go. So anyway, I do have some basic panel beating tools, hammer and dolly, etc. Hardly greatest quality, but hopefully they'll suffice for what I'm trying to do here. I want to get the dolly underneath here to hammer against, but from underneath I can hold the dolly on there, but good luck trying to hammer that round that way. Same token, certainly can't reach up under there, so maybe I can use a jack or something like that just to put some pressure underneath the bottom of it, and then when I'm hammering down, hopefully that will flatten everything out between these two. So that's my next step. I'm going to see if I can get this guy wedged up underneath there, and then I can start whaling on it, I suppose. Okay, so height of Kiwi ingenuity, or maybe stupidity, but anyway, I've got the dolly wedged up there using a bit of 4x3 off the top of my floor jack. That'll work, won't it? So I suppose all that remains to be seen now is whether I can hammer it down from the top. So the dolly is underneath there. That feels firm to press on. Yeah, hopefully it works, because otherwise I don't really know what I'm going to do. It didn't take too long to gently tap down the edges with the panel hammer. Then I used a drift with a heavier hammer to drive down the stiffer sections closer to the leftover metal from the battery tray. So this trick of using the jack to hold up the dolly underneath it seems to have worked quite well. Who would have thought? This little edge along there, that seam, that's closed up nicely. That'll probably just fusion weld together, probably won't even need any filler there. There is a teeny tiny little hole there, which is a bit of a bummer. And I still have some of the metal on here that was part of the battery tray. So I might use that, see if I start with that to absorb the heat of the welder, and that if that starts to melt and flow down into these little cracks, that won't necessarily be a bad thing. The only place I've actually got any sort of reasonable size hole is down on here. I don't know if that's going to show up on camera, but there's a little triangle in there where the material is missing. So that might be a little bit more challenging for me. Yeah, so in keeping with everything else on this channel, I am not a professional welder. I'm not qualified, I'm not experienced or anything like that. I do have my own TIG welder. I'm going to struggle with this because I haven't done a lot of welding, and this is quite thin metal. So there's a very strong possibility I'm going to blow through this thin metal and it's just going to drip down onto the floor, which will be annoying, and I'll wind up keep chasing it. But a good mate has said that he'll come and help me out with this if I get stuck. But I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go. So, yeah, wish me luck. Time to dust off the welder. I've had this set up for years, but it doesn't see a lot of use, so I keep it in a storage box under the workbench rather than on a welding trolley that would take up valuable floor space. Although if I had it set up on a trolley, perhaps I'd use it a bit more and actually get some practice in. Too late for that now though. Okay, I think I'm ready to give this a go now. This is one of those situations of all the gear and no idea. So I'm starting off with a really low amperage and using the same jack trick that I used for the dolly when I was hammering this flat. I've got a thin strip of aluminium pressed up against the bottom of where I'm going to be doing this welding. The steel obviously won't stick to the aluminium, and it'll also stop, hopefully, the sheet steel, if it melts, from just dripping away and causing a hole. So that's my hope. From what I understand, it also helps a little bit with heat dissipation, allowing you more time to work with the weld, so you don't have to work so quickly, which will definitely favour me because I am not good at this at all. The other thing is I'm going to just give it a little preheat the area here with my gas torch. From what I understand, that helps with warping. If the whole area has got a little bit of warmth into it, then it'll help prevent the cold steel and the hot steel growing at different speeds, and therefore causing the panel to warp, which again, we don't want that. So I don't know, I haven't tried either of those techniques before. This is all new to me, but I'm keen to give it a go and see how I get on. Nervous, but keen. So I'll get geared up and let's see how we go. Helmet's falling down. That's a good start already, isn't it? Okay, now I don't want to put a lot of heat into this. I'm just going to give it a quick little blip. In fact, you can actually see the heat going through that. Everything's nice and clean, but that should also help burn off any oils or whatever that are on there as well. So that's the theory. All right, deep breaths. Okay, so my idea of just fusing welding, that didn't really work out. It started out well, but quickly went pear-shaped. So now I think I'll try it again with a little bit of filler. Wound up building that up a little bit more than I would have liked, and missed a small spot there. Yeah, I am not very good at welding. I think I've got way too much heat in there now. Yeah, definitely putting too much heat in there. It's not that the amperages are too high. I think it's accumulated heat. I need to try and do it faster. Aluminium thingy underneath there was working fine, but I think the metal has actually bulged up a little bit. Let me work on that. Cleaned it up with the grinder. Turned out my little piece of aluminium had fallen away from underneath, which I think was part of my problem. I might have to do a little patch, but let's just try it again, see how I get on. A little bit of heat from that guy. Nah, they're too big for me to work with. I'm gonna have to chop that out and make a little patch panel. Okay, never mind. TIG welding's not very good for filling holes. You really need the pieces to be nice and tight and close together, and that was sort of proven by that first weld that I did, where it barely even needed any filler. The sides were so close together that yeah, it actually worked beautifully. But now that I've got holes there, for a man of my modest abilities, it's more than I can cope with, so I'm going to cut that out and make a little patch. Okay, I've made up a little patch panel. Yeah, pretty snug fit. This isn't going to win any internet competitions for the best looking welds, but I think that's actually not too bad. It's certainly welded all the way around. I don't think I've got any holes there. Should hold. And as they say, a grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. So yeah, I'll tidy that up and she'll be good as gold. Alright, I've just repositioned my block underneath to cover this guy here, which is where I've just gone a little bit deep with the cutting tool while I'm on a roll. Let's see if I can't get this guy as well. Okay, here we go. So yeah, that's the guy that I've just filled in. But yeah, didn't actually need a lot of filler rod. See, they've got a little bit of the old bracket is still in there. So I just kind of melted that, and that was most of what I used to fill the hole around the edge of them. So I'm just going to crack on with that and won't worry about filming them. All right, I think we're about ready over here. So I've been through it with the grinder followed by the flap disc, and let me show you where we're at. I've got the patch in there, it's all welded in, and I think that's actually pretty good for a man of my modest welding abilities. There was a spot weld here. There was a few of them over here, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 there that I welded up. That one I actually blew through and had to put a patch in that one as well. This one I didn't bother welding. I have cut into the sheet metal there a little bit, but I might just put some body filler on that. And all the other ones, the other spot welds and stuff, I was able to just grind them back. So my plan for now, we've still got quite a bit of pitting in here from the corrosion. So I think what I might do is actually just hit this with a little bit of rust converter before I go too much further, just to protect that, stop it going any worse. I do want to put a little bead of sealant along here. So you can see the seam sealer here and here, but there didn't seem to be any behind the battery tray, probably because they couldn't get to it. But yeah, so I'll just run a little bit of sealant along there, which should prevent any water from going down in there and potentially causing problems. And then yeah, these spot welds, a little bit of body filler on those, and sand that back, and then we shouldn't actually be able to see those spot welds once the paint's on there. So yeah, I've got some good high zinc paint that I'll chuck on there, and I think between all those steps it should be well protected and ready to go. But that's about all I've got time for today. So before the next episode, I'll make sure I just get those filler little bits out the way, and then we can call that corner of the engine bay done for now, and move on to the next bits. And next week should be a good video because I'm getting into some of the more meaty stuff now. So keep an eye out for when that one drops, and I'll see you guys there. As always, thank you for watching. Bye.